I remember we are already connected. I remember connection isn't something I have to create. I remember connection isn't something I have to force. I remember connection isn't something I have to chase. I remember it's already here. I remember that. Because connection was never measured by a message. Connection was never measured by a phone call. Connection was never measured by social media. Connection was never measured by what I can see today. I remember that. And no, I'm not falling for that old idea anymore. The idea that silence means separation. The idea that distance means disconnection. The idea that circumstances decide what is true. I remember better than that. I remember we are already connected. I remember connection exists before evidence. I remember connection exists before confirmation. I remember connection exists before appearances catch up. I remember that reality reflects what I know, and what I know feels simple. I know we are connected. I know I don't need to force anything. I know I don't need to make anything happen. I know I don't need to hold everything together. I remember that connection is natural. I remember that connection is effortless. I remember that connection flows easily. I remember that connection doesn't disappear because I can't see it. I remember who I am. And honestly, that feels good. It feels good to stop checking. It feels good to stop measuring. It feels good to stop looking for proof every 5 minutes. Because I remember what is true. I remember that they think of me naturally. I remember that they remember me naturally. I remember that I come to their mind easily. I remember that connection works both ways. I remember that. And no, I'm not giving circumstances a vote. I'm not asking appearances for permission. I'm not treating today's reflection as the final answer. I remember who I am. I remember what I chose. I remember what I know. And reality reflects that. That's how this works. I remember we are already connected. I remember there is no distance in consciousness. I remember there is no separation in what is real. I remember that connection is deeper than appearances. I remember that connection is deeper than timing. I remember that connection is deeper than circumstances. I remember that. And the more I remember, the calmer I feel, the more secure I feel, the more relaxed I feel, the more natural everything becomes. Because I am no longer trying to create connection. I am remembering connection. That's different. One feels like effort. The other feels like truth. I prefer truth. I prefer remembering. I prefer knowing. I prefer certainty. I remember we are already connected. I remember they enjoy hearing from me. I remember they enjoy thinking about me. I remember they enjoy being close to me. I remember they enjoy my presence. I remember being connected feels natural for both of us. And because I remember, I stop searching. Because I remember, I stop questioning. Because I remember, I stop checking. Because I remember, I stop wondering if it's working. I already know what is true. I already know what I chose. I already know what exists. I remember that connection is alive. I remember that connection is active. I remember that connection is present. I remember that connection is real. I remember that connection is natural. I remember that connection is ours. And I love that. I love how easy it feels. I love how simple it feels. I love how obvious it feels. I remember we are already connected. I remember we have always been connected. I remember connection is the natural state. I remember reality is reflecting what I know. I remember I don't need more proof. I remember I don't need more signs. I remember I don't need more evidence.